This session will focus on implementation of ISO 13485-2016. We will briefly discuss what ISO 13485-2016 is and why it is important. We will then dive into a discussion of the changes and requirements. Finally, we will share how to prepare quality assurance, regulatory affairs, and your team for the next steps. This standard specifies requirements for a quality management system, abbreviated QMS. Manufacturers must consistently provide medical devices which meet customer and regulatory requirements. The requirements apply regardless of organization size or type, with exceptions explicitly stated. When requirements apply to medical devices, the requirements also apply to related services provided by the organization. Manufacturers have until 2019 to comply with new requirements addressing aspects throughout the product lifecycle. A medical device file is required for each device type and must either contain or reference all required documents. The file typically contains product specifications, labeling, use instructions, and packaging specifications, procedures and work instructions, and required quality records. It is similar to a recipe. It contains all the specifications, material processes, and procedures to manufacture, install, and maintain a medical device. Methods must define protection of confidential health information and patient records. How will manufacturers protect patient data during an adverse event review? What if a hospital sends X-rays with PHI? Procedures should outline the proper request and acceptance of patient records so that a breach does not occur. A procedure for management review is required, with review to include handling of complaints and regulatory reporting and feedback. Quality objectives should be routinely reviewed with at least annual review of the quality policy. The organization must document a process for providing necessary training to establish competency and employee awareness. A general umbrella procedure is recommended to be supported by individual work instructions addressing competency training and error awareness. Employees should be trained to understand the impact their work has on the quality of the device/product. Requirements for facilities, equipment, and support services must be documented and must include directives for preventing product mix-ups and for assuring proper handling. Requirements for the production environment must be documented. For sterile medical devices, this includes requirements for control of contamination and requirements for maintaining cleanliness during assembly or packaging. Examples include monitoring and control procedures and disaster recovery procedures. Customer requirements now include applicable regulatory requirements and user training requirements. Communication with regulatory authorities must occur in accordance with applicable regulatory requirements. The organization shall assure that physicians and patients are trained to use a device safely and effectively, and ensure that such training is made available to a device's users. The quality policy statement should link to customer requirements including, for example, high quality, on-time delivery, meeting all applicable regulations. Design verification and validation protocols and reports must state the methods used, acceptance criteria, and statistical rationale for sample sizes. Validation must be completed using representative product. The validation report should include a rationale for the product used. This is consistent with FDA design controls. A SOP is required to define the process for transferring a design project to production. The procedure must require that, prior to production transfer, design verification and validation activities have been completed and product processes have been validated. A standard operating procedure defining the design change process is required and must require identification of impact of potential changes on device, function, performance, usability, and safety, and also the impact on applicable regulatory requirements and risk management files. New details have been added for consideration in determining significance of a design and development change. A file is required for each device or device family and must either include or reference all records used to verify compliance with device requirements and design changes. Purchasing information must include a written quality agreement stating that the supplier will notify the customer prior to implementing any changes that could impact the ability of the product to meet requirements. The customer must evaluate impact of changes on the production process or product upon becoming aware of any changes to purchased product. New criteria has been added regarding monitoring and reevaluation of suppliers and action to be taken when purchasing requirements are not met. Criteria must be established for supplier evaluation and selection that is based upon supplier performance and proportionate to the associated risk. Supplier performance must be monitored. The results of supplier performance monitoring shall be used during supplier reevaluation. Supplier scorecard records must be maintained of evaluation, selection, monitoring, and reevaluation. Service records must be evaluated to determine if an issue constitutes a complaint, requires formal corrective action. Production controls must include equipment qualification. Processes must be validated if the resulting output either cannot be or is not verified. Validation procedures must utilize statistical methods and state a rationale for sample sizes. This is comparable to FDA requirements. Containers for packaging and shipping must be designed and constructed to protect the product from damage when exposed to expected conditions. If packaging cannot preserve the product, requirements for special conditions must be documented. Special conditions must be controlled and records maintained. Methods must be documented for gathering and using feedback, which must be obtained from activities both during and post-production. Information obtained from feedback should be applied to the risk management process. The data analysis procedure must define appropriate analysis methods, including statistical techniques and the extent of their use. Analysis must be performed on data from feedback, product conformity, process trends, supplier performance, audit results, and service reports. The organization shall identify and implement any changes needed to maintain the quality system effectiveness and medical device safety and performance through the use of quality policy, quality objectives, audit results, post-market surveillance, analysis of data, corrective actions, preventative actions, and management review. Although FDA quality system regulation does not require this, the intent is the same: improvement of the quality management system through corrective and preventive actions. QA and regulatory affairs groups should become familiar with risk management, applying a risk-based approach to all quality management system processes. Develop systems for QMS software validation and proactive customer feedback. Document skills and expertise for the QMS team. Measure training effectiveness and employee competence. Routinely hold management reviews with a predefined agenda. Proactively collect and analyze quality system data. Monitor and measure effective processes and procedures on QMS and device safety. Document QMS improvements based on data analysis. Tighter supplier controls. To prepare your team, obtain the final approved version of ISO 13485-2016. Complete a universal gap analysis. Identify key resources required to update the quality management system. Generate a quality plan detailing all activities. Train all personnel to the revised standard. Implement the revised standard. Ensure that all internal audits assess to the new standard. To wrap up this training session, the implementation deadline for ISO 13485-2016 is March of 2019. If a manufacturer self-certifies in the European Union, they should also verify with medical device regulations regarding the applicable device class. If a manufacturer is granted CE through a notified body, they should plan for remediation and obtain a date for their next inspection. If a manufacturer is developing a new device, they should seek guidance from a qualified auditor and/or speak to a notified body. See this reference guide for additional information. As FDA QRC is committed to customer service, we welcome your honest feedback and have made the process easy for you. It will only take a few seconds for you to help us be better. Upon receipt of your survey, FDA QRC will send you a certificate as documentation of your training completion.